Hey friends, this is the Hardcore Self-Help Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Robert Duff. Today I have a very special interview for you. I have celebrity chef Chris Valdes. You may have seen him on Food Network Star or Chopped or any number of morning TV shows where he's done recipes, talked about his background in Cuban cooking, his family background. He's a great guy. Here are some highlights from our interview.
I remember when I was on Food Network Star, I was making an arroz con pollo, and Chef Alex Cornicelli, she's like, "Do you have to use all these spices?" And I turned around and I said, "Yes, you have to use all of these spices." Because she's like, "Less is more." I'm like, "No, not in Cuban food. You need this concoction of all of these spices together for it to work." I was always there alongside her and asking her questions. Why did you add this? Why is it so colorful? Why does it taste like this? Why does it smell like this? And mom always took the time to answer all of those questions, and she would allow me to taste, and she just would allow my inner foodie to experiment in the kitchen at such a young age. I think with the TV is just basically I overexhausted myself. I was hating it at the time because I wasn't supposed to be doing it. I should have been resting. I should have been working on myself, not highlighting myself even more. I mean, at a time, I was even having a hard time looking at myself in the mirror. Why would I put myself on a national stage? We're not only taught, but we're used to sucking it up and just going through whatever we're going through. Sometimes, we take out that aggression in the kitchen, either yelling, screaming, doing all the prep work, ruining dishes, throwing shit on the floor. Um, but yeah, we're taught to push through, to not talk about it, follow that feeling you had when you were young, because it's a special feeling and it comes up every now and then, and it's a indication that something is happening, right? Don't be afraid to love. Don't be afraid to lead.
All right, as you can tell from those highlights, we get into much more than just food. We talk about mental health. We talk about Chris's family background, why he took a year off from everything recently, and much, much more. One little issue I wanted to point out, if you're watching the video version, you will see that my video is much lower quality than Chris's. Something got corrupted with my original video file, so I had to use a backup. Very disappointed about it. I spent hours trying to fix it and nothing worked. So just have some grace with me about that. I wish it was better quality on my end, but for the audio, it should be totally fine. If you're listening to this just through audio, no difference. And for the video version, you're still getting good audio, even if my video looks a little bit messed up. Hopefully it doesn't happen again, but it is what it is. So please enjoy this interview. If you do like the show, please subscribe on whatever platform you're using. Leave a rating if you can, leave a thumbs up. Anything you can do to support is very, very meaningful to me. I appreciate your attention. Let's get into it. All right, friends, I am joined by a guest today. I have Chef Chris Valdes. You may have seen him on TV, on the internet, various places. We're going to talk about some interesting stuff. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, Robert, thank you so much for having me.
What are just, for a few highlights, where have people maybe seen you on TV or elsewhere?
Oh, Jesus, it's been 8 years. Food Network, on so many different things on Food Network. I think the biggest one has been Food Network Star for the OG Food Network fans.
Mm-hmm.
We were in the last season of that, season 14. I've been on Kelly and Mark, Sherry Show, GMA, so many different like channels and podcasts and online things. And I've had my few viral moments for doing certain things on TV and whatnot. So yeah,
Nice.
It's been a long career. And my cookbook, which has also taken me to so many places, and it's on the news, so maybe with some of my charity work throughout the years.
Awesome. You've definitely done a lot in a relatively short amount of time. To start things off, though, I kind of wanted to go back, and this may be a hard question to answer, maybe easy, I'm not sure. What is your earliest food-related memory?
Oh, wow. I think one that I constantly go back to is my mom was making this flan. She was having like a date night at home. And I remember I was watching the movie Good Burger. And she calls me to the kitchen and she's like, "Hey, try this thing in a can." And it was whipped cream. And I was afraid to try it. And I started crying. And, when she puts it in my mouth, I'm like, this is nice. So then she goes to shower and I go to the kitchen and I put a little more whipped cream and then I go watch the movie. I go back. So I probably do like 7 trips. And those whipped cream cans, they always feel heavier than what, it actually holds inside. So all I know is that she finished showering. She finishes decorating the flan. For some reason, she was decorating it with whipped cream, which doesn't make any sense, but I'm not going to question her years later. But all I know is that I hear her say, "Christopher!" And I'm like, how would she have known she was showering? When I get to the kitchen, half of the flan has whipped cream and half of it doesn't have whipped cream because I ate all of the whipped cream. So she's like, "Did you eat some of the whipped cream?" And I was like, and yeah, so the date night went great, but as we ate together, all three of us, I was staring at the flan in the center of the table with half of it covered in whipped cream and half of it just being flan. So, yeah, that's just one memory that just stays in my head. And I think it was the yelling part of my name that just stays engraved in there. But adults now, as an adult now, I think every time we see a can of whipped cream, we start laughing, and it takes us back to that moment.
Oh, that's really funny. That's great. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And if somebody calls you Christopher like that, does that do you get a little shock?
Yeah, because my name is, well, my stage name is Chris.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I hear someone change my name to Christopher, usually I'm in trouble. And it usually is my mom or my assistant that used that,
Oh, no.
That Christopher. Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you did the workplace equivalent of eating all the whipped cream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So definitely a trauma.
Okay. Paint me a picture. What was your life and environment like growing up?
Growing up was, I think I grew up into a family restaurant, and every day I would see my stepmom, which for me is my real mom.
Okay.
I would see her cooking all these things, adding ingredients, chopping up things, and I was always there alongside her and asking her questions. Why did you add this? Why is it so colorful? Why does it taste like this? Why does it smell like this? And mom always took the time to answer all of those questions, and she would allow me to taste, and she just would allow my inner foodie to experiment in the kitchen at such a young age. So and then obviously seeing my dad always as a businessman in the restaurant, hearing the compliments from the people, and seeing the waiters, how they would attend to them and whatnot. So definitely, I grew up in the service industry, in the food industry, in the industry of making people happy, and I think those were some great years. Around the age of 7, whatnot, my dad was sent to jail for 19 years. And a little after that, we lost the restaurant, we lost our homes, we pretty much lost everything. And I think that the most valuable thing that I lost, aside from my childhood, was we lost our family and my best friend, my dad. So it was like restarting, and that's a pretty hard concept for a 10-year-old to grasp. It's just a lot of the things that, yeah. So
can I ask, did your father's arrest come out of left field to you, or was this something that was known and it was just kind of like hoping it didn't happen?
My dad actually was sentenced and sent to jail the day after my birthday. So I was, asking, where's dad and why isn't he around and whatnot. I was a child. I didn't know. Obviously, years later, I did some digging, and I read about the charges and whatnot. And my dad, he came in the 1983 with most of the Cubans in the Mariel crisis, and just like every other Cuban, he had the American dream, and he wanted to make sure that his family had everything we needed, and we did have everything and more. But that sometimes you just have to be careful with wanting more and more and more, and becoming greedy to the point that you're willing to do even things you're not supposed to for the goal of achieving more. So I think that's where that ended. And
It must must be a thorn in your side, seeing the kind of stuff that people get away with now that are not Cuban immigrants, and what your father had to go through.
Yeah, I mean, my dad basically went to jail because most of all, my dad had a state lawyer that would get him out of trouble all the time. This was a federal case, and they caught him with, he was using one of our warehouses to resell drugs and whatnot. I think that the reason he got so many years is because his lawyer told him to plead non-guilty. And in a federal case, if they catch your hand in the cookie jar, and you basically say that you're not guilty, you're going to get more
You
years.
get like punished for that.
And you get punished for that. So that's why, because nowadays, people for the same thing will go to jail 2, 3 years or something like that. But he did more years than if he would have just,
Sure.
still killed somebody else. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think, in a way, I think life happens how it needs to happen. And it definitely, I probably would have been a spoiled brat like I was, and I wouldn't have learned the true essence of life and how to work hard for things and how to make a name for myself and how to transfer dreams and aspirations into reality. So, it's unfortunate, but sometimes just life works that way.
Yeah. You also said that your dad was like your best friend and, very influential for you. What are some of the things that you took from him? What are some of the things that are, positive aspects of his character?
I think definitely the business side of him, I have that. I see it when I'm running my staff. I see it as a leader. I see it with the numbers. Sometimes I'll turn anything into a negotiation. And I've gotten good along the way because when I was younger, it was a lot worse. But more importantly, my dad knew how to provide for our family. So definitely that's something that I took from him. And he also has a way with his words and he's very funny. So I have that as well. We don't speak as much nowadays, but when we do speak, we start laughing and we're like, hey, we're very similar after all. So
imagine that. Yeah. You, somewhere in the stuff you've put out, I saw you share a little story about how you would sell oranges off your dad's truck, like the extra oranges for like $1 a piece or something like that. That really struck me because my father sells plants, sells them to Home Depots and Lowe's and, different stores like that. And so I would always be with him, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning going to these things. And I would sell his sample plants or seeds. I would go door to door and try to sell that to get, laser tag money or whatever. So I was like, there's I recognize the entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah, definitely. I did get that from him as well. And but if you wouldn't buy an orange from me, I would throw a tantrum. So what would happen is that my tantrum would cause my dad to come out, and he'd look at the and they'd give me like $10, and they're like, "You could keep the oranges." So it's like a little mafia mob thing situation I had going on at the age of 5, 6.
There you go.
Which is a little scary and concerning, but hey, I would get the money. I would get the money.
And at that time, what were you doing with the money?
My dad was always taking me with him everywhere. So I would go to the stores and I would just buy toys and just, I don't know, just things kids want, toys. Even though I didn't really need the money because my dad would still buy me the toys. But sometimes I'd buy myself a toy with my money and then with his money, I'd buy some more toys. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the spoiled brat bullet that you dodged, right?
Yeah. But I'm no longer like that. So.
Yes. What have you ever wanted to be anything other than a chef or a cook?
Yeah. So throughout high school, I knew I wanted to go to culinary school. I knew I wanted to do something with TV. The TV thing was a little farther though, because, that's not an easy thing to break into. I went to this cooking competition at Le Cordon Bleu. It was the Future Chef of America competition, but this first one was a baking competition. And it was the worst day of my life. I whipped cream all over myself. I flour bombed the entire kitchen. I was melting chocolate over a double boiler, and I was like, something is burning. And I looked down, and my towel is on fire. And then I was making a tart a cheesecake tart in less than 3-4 hours, which it would have never set. So I clearly did not think it through. And I presented it as a smoothie. Nobody's going to eat that shit.
Oh my God.
Eggs, raw eggs and things like that. So, points for creativity, but it was just the worst day of my life. And I remember going back to school that Monday and my teacher, Miss Hyatt, asked me about what happened. And I'm like, no, you know what? I'm just going to go to law school. Like I want to, this is not for me, fire the flower, that is that. And then she's like, sometimes in life, life is going to put some speed bumps along the way, and it's not meant to discourage you. It's meant for you to go at it one more time, for you to try it out a different way, for you to give it your all. Sometimes it just takes more than one time, and it's a concept that really taught me something, especially like with recipes. Sometimes the first recipe doesn't work out. Sometimes you do it 5 times and it doesn't work out. But it's taught us that basically even if it doesn't come out right, we're going to try it again and again and again until we get it right. And I think that's a concept I learned from that whole lesson. And there was now the cooking competition one, and she told me about it. I'm like, no, the fire, the flour, the bomb. I just, it's not for me. And 2 weeks later, I received an email saying that I was selected to participate in the cooking competition. So I called the school, and I'm like, I know what you guys are doing. You guys want to use me as entertainment because, I know pretty much everyone was
Oh,
dying of laughter, but I was not dying. I was literally dying. And they're like, yeah, we don't know what you're talking about. We got the email submission from this email, and it was my teacher's email. She
uh,
had resubmitted my essay that I used for the baking competition. And so I went furious to the classroom and I told her, why are you going against my wishes? She's like, you just need some encouragement. Like, I know your entire life. I've seen what you do here in the school. This is for you, but you're just giving up too quick. And I'm just asking you for one favor. You can't give up right now. I need you to go over there. And if you burn down the school, then at least you tried, but you need to try one more time. So that day, cooking competition day comes, and we're about to start. And I had the same feeling I had at the age of 10 years old, where I just felt something in here that just says, do it. Just do what you know how to do. Do it with love. And that day, I won a $10,000 first place scholarship to the Cordon Bleu. But more importantly, I learned that sometimes in life it takes more than one try. So short answer is I wanted to go to law school, and thank God that I didn't because that's crazy.
that's a bit of a departure. That would be very different.
Yeah, very different, very different.
Did your family have any particular pressure on you for going one direction or another?
Um, you know, Pretty much when you say my family, it was pretty much just my mom and I,
Yeah, sure.
because my brother had gone his own way, my sister went her own way, my dad was not, I would speak to him like once a month.
Hmm.
I think most of the encouragement always came from my mother and my teachers, and pretty much they just encouraged me to just do what I wanted to do, whatever that was. No one said, "Oh, a chef," "Oh, a lawyer." No, people just said, "Okay," and I was very determined to be a chef. So I think people just encouraged me to do that.
Yeah. And you probably showed a good talent for it back then too, like a natural inclination toward that, aside from the
Oh yeah,
disasters.
yeah, yeah. I First of all, they knew, I grew up in a family restaurant,
Right.
and then they also knew how much I love Chef Emerald. And how I would always be talking about him. I'd always be talking to the teachers about Top Chef and Food Network Star. And anytime there was a little cooking competition in school, I would always be part of it and I would submit my dish and whatnot. So food was always a topic for me.
Yeah. Did you, at what point did you kind of have the idea of not just being a chef, but like being what we would now call like an influencer, a personality? Where did that come into play?
So I think when I was 10 that we lost everything and then my mom and I moved into this small apartment building. I spent a lot of alone time because my mom basically had three jobs so that she could, pay for everything and whatnot. And I was flipping through the channels,
Hmm.
and I see this man and he goes, bang! And at that moment, I started seeing these visions of me cooking with a chef jacket and people clapping and me feeding people and people just seeing a lot of happy faces and like basically seeing myself like Chef Emerald.
Hmm.
And at the time, I was like, I remember I went like this and I'm like, am I going through puberty? I'm like,
Like something weird's
but the
happening to my
visions,
body.
yeah, it was a weird sensation, and it was a lot of visions, and I think it's the first time I experienced having visions at the age of 10, and just very clear visions. Until today, I remember them, and that along with what I saw, and then every day going to that same spot, 7 p.m. to watch Chef Emerald, eventually led me to like this desire of me saying like, oh, I want to go cook. Like, what 10-year-old does that? So I
Yeah.
made my own dish all by myself with some money I had. I went to the supermarket downstairs. I bought some things and I made my arroz con pollo. And when my mom came home, I surprised her. And I'm like, look, Chef Emerald helped me. And my Latin mom lost her shit. because she's like, "You're not supposed to let anyone in here."
Oh,
And I'm like, and
who is
then with
Chef
a
Emerald?
Latin mom, yeah, with Latin mom, you have just like 5 seconds to explain everything before you get a righty. So I'm like, no, 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 Chef Emerald, TV, bam, and I'm like, just give me 10 minutes. Chef Emerald is about to start cooking. Yeah, so we sat after all of that was calm. We sat down together. We saw Chef Emerald, and we had the arroz con pollo, and it was a beautiful, first meal.
Yeah. It when you talk about this, I see you like, do you still feel it? Like these memories, do you still like feel them in your body?
Oh, oh, I still feel it, and not only do I still feel it, but anytime I have an opportunity, uh, any opportunity on TV or anything, like the inner child in me still gets so excited. And this is like, I don't care for popularity. I don't care about number of followers. It's just something about continuing to fulfill that dream of that inner child, and the fact that I was able to make it into reality just always just makes me like a little child again.
Mm.
And the other thing is, here I have this on my desk. Anytime I've met him a few times,
Is
but
that Emerald?
anytime that's Chef, yeah, well,
Okay.
obviously he's older now,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
but anytime I'm next to him, I don't say anything. I'm just quiet, mind you. I don't get star-studded with people. I've been with a lot of stars around me. I, with this man, I just get so quiet, and I just want to say like so many thank yous to him, but I just mute.
Because you can't find the words because it's just the gravity of it, or what causes that?
Is it till today I still have that, pinch me? How did my vision as a child, how did I make all of that come
Yeah.
true? How blessed am I that, my life, the way it started, like my mom was an immigrant and she was a waitress at the family restaurant. My dad was notorious for sleeping around with all of the waitresses, and that's how I was born. My mom got deported when I was 2 years old. So, there goes that.
Oh wow.
And then my stepmom decided to stay with me and raise me. Nowadays, when do you hear someone stay with the child that's representative of, basically that they cheated on you? Like, it's
Sure.
just very uncommon. So it's just a lot of things that work towards my favor, and yeah.
Right. If
So
one thing was different, you wouldn't have the chance to stand next to Emerald.
yeah, yeah. So it's always like a little pinch me thing.
No doubt. It would
Um,
make a really good
yeah.
animated movie. Like if they made like a Pixar movie about your life, I feel like it would be great.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you. That's a great idea. I do have a little idea similar to that, but not in movie format.
Okay. Okay. We can keep that, in the
Yeah.
in the oven for
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
um, so, you got this scholarship to Cordon Bleu, and you kind of started that path. You didn't become a lawyer. Was it all smooth sailing from there? Like,
Oh
were there bumps
no.
in the road?
Oh no. So after the culinary school was the easiest part. I decided to do the 21 course in I think it was 10 months. Crazy. I don't know why I did that, but whatever. You live and learn. And then right after culinary school, I decided to start my own catering company, which I still own till today. And I just celebrated 15 years with that.
Wow. How old were you
And
when that was
19, 19. Crazy.
quite an
Why? Like,
endeavor?
yeah, and everyone's like, "Good for you." I'm like, "No, I was crazy. Why? What made me think that? It was hard." And I remember my first catering event. I basically had like negative $250 in the bank account.
Mhm.
I remember being 19 and feeling like such a failure. And I remember I was one time in my nephew's bed and I was thinking of ways of taking my life, of how big of a failure I had felt. Because, yeah, you open the business, but the phone is not ringing, nobody knows who you are. And then I was having a big issue. My issue is that the people that were calling, or the people that would come across, they'd be like, I do food tastings, and they'd be like, wow, the food is so good, but I can't trust you, a 19-year-old, with my wedding.
Oh
And
wow.
I went through so many of those scenarios, to the point that eventually, when people would ask me, "Are you the chef or are you the owner?" I'm like, "Oh, no, no, no. I'm just basically presenting the tasting." I had to start
Wow.
lying so that I could book these events. Um, Crazy, right?
Yeah.
How
So you had to be at,
nowadays something applaud me for something I did at the age of 19, but many people I came across, they would not applaud me. In fact, they would reject me because of my age. And they would say, "We love the food, but we can't trust you."
you try to convince yourself that people don't like just judge you from looking at you, right? But when you get shown that time and time again, that
Oh,
has to start
totally.
getting to you.
But I'm glad because it also taught me when I started my TV career. At first, everyone's like, "Woo!" And then once you start hitting that first step of which in my case was Food Network star, afterwards
Mm,
crickets, and you're like, "Oh, where's all my the people supporting me?"
yeah.
Crickets. And then it's not until you do this magical leap from like here to like here that people are like, "Oh, we love you. Oh, I always knew you would make it."
Right. Right.
So it really helped me with that.
To like temper your
Definitely.
expectations that like one event
Mm-hmm.
isn't going to change the whole course of everything.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So when you were, a young adult, having this difficulty, getting your catering off the ground, you were actually, was that when you were starting to experience like legitimate depression?
Oh, for sure, for
Okay.
sure. That I think that's the first time it really hits me. Maybe in my childhood a little because I would question a lot of things like, oh, why isn't my birth mom here?
Hmm.
Why is my dad away? Why is mom never home? Why did we lose our three homes? Why is my family not around? Why am I sitting alone? Just a lot of questions that a child shouldn't be asking themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, an acute awareness of humanity from that young age. But then the first like real, you said, you would lay in bed and actually think about like, do I even want to be here anymore?
Yeah, that was 19.
Okay. How long did that go on for? Was there anything that kind of pulled you out of that?
I think at that moment my nephews got home that day and they started talking to me or asking me questions, and it literally I didn't want to cry in front of them or I didn't want to show them what I was feeling, so I would just put on a happy smile. As a child I always learned to, when people would ask me, what's going on, are you okay? um, I realized that if I just smiled, that people wouldn't ask me if I was okay, and which is not a good technique. Because now, as an adult life, sometimes we're going through things. Like last year, I had a meltdown right before doing GMA and after doing GMA, and the whole time, I was just smiling and I looked fine and
Oh,
whatnot.
wow.
But deep down inside, I was not doing okay, and actually, that moment was what helped me take a year off of my career and to just center myself and take care of myself because I'm so used to taking care of everyone. I'm so used to checking up on everyone. I'm so used to plating everyone's food so beautifully, and mine is just like a big pile of dump. And I feel like I had to change that. And that moment was the one that reminded me that it was time for a change.
Can you talk a bit more about that event? So this Good Morning America, you were doing a taping or something like that, and this is the lead up
Yeah.
to that.
This was September, a little prior to that March. I went through unexpected like breakup.
Mm,
I'm very old school. It was a relationship with an avoidance, someone that basically everything's perfect, and suddenly like it's like a switch turns off, and it's a completely different person. I didn't even know what any of that was. I didn't know what was happening. I learned this afterwards. All I know is that it took me to a deep depression, and deep depression. Like I was literally on the corner of my bed, about to grab my, in my drawer, and just the
wow.
thoughts were not happy. And It was just some dark months where the only thing I could achieve on some days was getting up and going to the gym. Um, but then I would come home and I would just stare at the ceiling fan for the entire day, praying for the day to end. And on some days, I couldn't even get up to go to the gym because my body was completely numbed. And that went, went on for about 13 months.
Wow.
Um, stole a little chapter from younger me, and I'm like, oh, maybe I just need to dive into work more. So I started doing some TV stuff, and that was in September. And horrible idea. Horrible idea.
Can I ask, Chris, did anybody know this was going on for you?
People knew. People knew the people close to me knew.
Okay.
But everyone thought it was a great idea for me to, distraction. Go do TV. Go do what you love. Horrible idea. And I remember I was in New York. My publicist knew. She was with me, and she knew what was happening before and after. I think I mentioned it to the producer. But something I learned in my childhood was to just put a big smile.
Yeah.
So if you go back to the clip, the segment, I look fine. I look happy. I can't see it because I know exactly what I was going through. But it was just very dark. Then I usually my car, anytime I do TV, I have my car waiting for me. So I go straight to the airport, and I was bawling there. And then I get on the plane, I'm losing my shit there. And then I realized that I just needed a big break. And when I spoke to some people, sometimes we in this industry, we just have people that advise us and whatnot. I got a lot of, go do what you need to do. Other people, why has it taken you so long to heal? And then other people, wow, you're going to become irrelevant. You're throwing out your career. But something told me that the biggest and best thing I could do for myself was to take care of myself, because I have a big business. I have a career that brings in as much money as the business. And I just realized that I wasn't taking care of the one thing that has to deal with everything myself. So I'm like, you know what, let me finish with my obligations, my contractual obligations, and let me take this break. And till today, I think it's the best decision and the best thing I could have done for myself.
What did that break look like? What did you do?
Okay, so I did a lot of traveling. And, a lot of people are like, oh, wow, traveling. No, because a lot of times I would get to the destination and I'd go straight to the bed. So I'd pay all this money to go, far away and nothing.
Sleep in an exotic location.
If you want to call it that. It's cry in an exotic location.
Yes.
But I think that the one thing that really stood out from my break was I decided to rent oceanfront Malibu hotel. The ocean just really helps me. It's the one place that I like going to when I need to recharge. And then in that trip to Malibu, I had already set up something similar to ayahuasca journey. And but this one was more like a tea. So I drove up to the guy's house in LA, and I did the journey. And I think that was such an insightful moment for me that I was able to. It told me a little bit about my life. It explained things. It told me like a little bit of what's coming, a little bit of why things happened. Mind you, I was awake the whole time. I was conscious the whole time. In fact, I have a small bladder. I got up to go to the bathroom 3 times. Then I would come back and I'd just put my head down and it would continue. It was very enlightening. And I think one of the most interesting things I've ever done in my life. Aside from that.
Sorry, I was going to ask, did you have any opinions about that kind of thing before doing it?
Go in open-minded.
Okay.
Be as open-minded as possible. Don't be scared. Obviously they give you preparation before, like don't drink, don't eat, blah, blah, blah. I thought that, they're like, come as calm as possible. The ocean, I know, makes me calm. So I decided to stay there, which is a horrible idea at the time because the LA fires had just happened in January. So in March, they had closed that road, to enter Malibu. So you would have to do like this 2-hour detour.
Yeah.
So the Uber drive there going and coming back was like 300 something. So yeah,
good for them, I guess.
No, but they were not happy. And a lot of them would accept the rides. And then they're like, wait, what the hell? The road is closed. No, cancel. And one guy just left me there on the side of the highway.
Oh my God.
What do I do? Thank God I know the area and I didn't lose my shit, and I kind of did lose my shit, but in a nice way.
Yeah. Wow. So you really earned it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Okay. So you did this ceremony and it gave you some things that you needed.
It gave me some things to work on myself. It gave me some information to not chase. It reminded me of certain things because I was like, wait, maybe this career is not for me, not the cooking one. Because, at the end of the day, I, I've already said that I want to die in the kitchen. Like, it's
Hmm.
just my place. But I meant the TV side of it. And it explained a little bit of that and whatnot. And I think with the TV is just basically I overexhausted myself. I was hating it at the time because I wasn't supposed to be doing it. I should have been resting. I should have been working on myself, not highlighting myself even more. I mean, at a time, I was even having a hard time looking at myself in the mirror. Why would I put myself on a national stage where
Mm.
you have all these freaking things and the lights, they do, it's like symbolic. When you have a camera and you have all these lights and you have all these people, you have all this energy and attention when you just like want to hide in the corner. So I was like, why would I do that to myself?
Yeah. You had to be very inauthentic to get through it. Like, cause you
Yeah.
weren't able to really be yourself in those moments.
And I could, and I'm glad you bring that up because I could definitely fake it. I have a background in acting. I could definitely put on that smile, which I learned as a child. But I've learned that when you have to use those resources afterwards, there's this whole feeling of emptiness that to recover from that is just so hard.
Mm.
And it's like it makes you feel soulless. So if I have to use it, I'll use it, but I rather not use it. In this situation, I used it and I definitely paid the consequences afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah. Your period of time off, that's kind of come to an end now, right? So like, what was the
Yeah.
process of? Did you feel like, hey, I'm better? Did you have a moment of like, I feel like I can handle this again?
A lot of reflection, a lot of working myself, tons of therapy,
Mm.
tons of walks at the beach, a lot of alone time, tons of alone time. Um, I don't like crowds anymore. So big crowds I don't do unless I'm working. Sometimes I host events for up to 600 people where I'm literally 3 hours shaking and taking pictures nonstop. Um, so that definitely afterwards I feel like the biggest pile of shit.
Wow.
But I do it because I love what I do, but it just draws all of your energy. But a lot of alone dates. I would go inside restaurants alone, and I enjoy it. Um, and just checking on myself every day. Like I feel like I'm so used to checking up on other people, but for once, putting all of that love, I guess that I had, and I didn't know what to do, and just giving it to myself. Um, and taking one step at a time. I know with my friends, they'd be like, wow, it's been 12 months, it's been 14 months, it's been XYZ. And you just have to shut those voices down and trust the process that you're in. And I think that tea journey I did really helped me with that, where it says, trust the process you're in. You need a break. You know that this is your career because you had visions of this. You've worked so hard for it. Things have aligned for you to be part of this moment. So definitely you're on the right track. But you need to remind yourself, to always choose yourself, to love yourself, and to just silence all of those voices because otherwise everyone would tell you something different. It's like when you sit in a room, and this happens to me so often, and now I've learned how to tell everyone to shut the fuck up, where people tell you how, like in my case, I'm Chris, right? So everyone's like, Chris needs to be this. Chris needs to do this. What would be best for Chris to do is this. Chris needs to present himself this way. The best project for Chris would be this. The way we need to pitch Chris is, and I'm like, yo, I'm Chris. So I should be saying what Chris needs to say and do.
Yeah.
And all of that is not Chris. That is your version of Chris, but that is not me. And I'm so happy this breakup happened because it's allowed me to really fix so many broken little things that we allow, to go on by. But this is one of them. It's definitely reflected in my
Hmm.
work where I would allow these things to happen because of the sake of people pleasing, because it's part of what I do in my industry. But nowadays, I sit in a meeting and I'm like, I start talking. I'm going to take the narrative of my journey, of my story, and we're going to tell the story how I think it should be told.
Yeah. So you found your way to that authenticity that you were lacking
For
before.
sure. Yes.
That's great.
Yes.
Ready
I
for
don't
that.
think I was lacking it, but I think I was silent about it
Sure.
for the
Sure.
sake of others, being happy or whatnot,
Yeah. Yeah.
or
Good
being
correction.
pleased. Yeah.
Has this, it sounds like you kind of have like more boundaries now with the people that are in, potential influences on you and things like that. Has that also taken place anywhere else in your life? Like, do you find that you operate in a kitchen differently now than you did prior?
Well, my new middle name is Boundaries, and I've applied them across everywhere in my kitchen, with my catering staff, with my career staff, in my family, with my friendships. That's a very important one. With my friendships, just across everything. So because you can't make a change in one area of your life and then neglect every other part of your life that needs to be worked on. When you're working on yourself, you really have to dig in and do the work across all your different types of connections and things like that. So definitely.
Yeah. What's a way that you see that now? Like how has that changed, in either your friendships or the kitchen or what have you?
So one of them is my favorite word is no. I know it's weird, but they're like, Chris, you should know. That's one. Uh, the other one is my this is I'm not happy to say this, but my best friend has been going through a breakup as well. But instead of choosing herself, she's chosen to continue that cycle. So eventually, I told her, I'm like, hey, I love you, but I've already tried to tell you everything in the book to help you, and you choose not to help yourself. So I could no longer be here to hear you because it's taking a toll on me. Because you say one thing one day, then the next day you go 20 blocks back, and I just can't deal with it. Because you see, when you're putting in the work and you're elevating and you're going through the next phase of your life, you can't continue to leave a door open that's going to hold you back. And my friend, for as much as I love her, it would just put me in such a sad place to hear these stories. But most of all, it would break my heart, and it breaks my heart to see her continue this vicious, toxic cycle that is just taking her to such a dark place that I get scared. I don't even know, I, I I don't even know how you start working on that. So the point is that I just had to step away from that as much as I love her, but just to protect myself. Uh,
Yeah. Amazing. And it wasn't like, the first sign of that you stepped away. You tried to stay, you tried
for
to,
months,
yeah,
for
yeah. But
months,
ultimately, you've learned to, love yourself. So you need to take care of yourself.
and set those little boundaries.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let me pull things back a little bit to kitchens, because I understand that, what you've gone through has made you more outspoken about the mental health landscape of kitchens, professional kitchens and such. For those who never have been in, food service or, cooked or anything like that, what is it like? Why is this an issue?
I think especially as men, and I'm not just men, but
Sure.
especially in men, and especially men in the kitchen. I think we're not only taught, but we're used to sucking it up and just going through whatever we're going through. Sometimes, we take out that aggression in the kitchen, either yelling, screaming, doing all the prep work, ruining dishes, throwing shit on the floor. Um, but yeah, we're taught to push through, to not talk about it. Um, and I think that that's where the biggest issue is, because the kitchen is such a special place. It's a place that allows so many different types of backgrounds. It's a place that ex-convicts, people that are studied, people that haven't gone to school, people that are street smart, people that are XYZ. it's such a place with such diversity and backgrounds that that you just meet all types of different types of characters, and I think that in there you learn that everyone A is going through something, but B that even though we're all going through something, we're just there like, yeah, we're badass, we know what we're doing the service, this and that. But a lot of times you see them, and this one has a coke addiction, this one has a weed addiction, this one has an alcohol addiction, this one's wanting to cry every 5 minutes in the back, and we're all going through something, but since we're taught to just suck it up, we don't speak about it. And I think it's time that we start changing that, not only in this career, but in so many careers. And that's something I recently learned, while going through my journey. I have all these awesome friends, not many that I open up to, but I started opening a little more to them and using my resources, because I've been so nice to so many people, and I've always been there to hear them out. And I'm like, why am I not willing to share some of my stuff? So I started having conversations, and anytime I would say something, the other person would be like, you know what, I've been going through something too. And it allows you to help each other out in different ways that you never thought of. But sometimes we just have to open up a little and start the conversation. And it's just beautiful what could happen. But in the kitchen, it's a place where usually we're just there, so focused on what we're doing and so stuck in our ways and so stuck in what we've been taught of just sucking everything up, that we don't open up as much.
Yeah. And it's so high pressure. I mean, especially if it's at a restaurant, for instance, where it's like, there's no option for this to not work. You can't not get the dish done, right? Like you can't not do the service. So you have to get through somehow. And often it seems like that is, ignoring whatever's going on emotionally, ignoring whatever cuts you have, all of that, and just barreling through.
And sometimes the slightest minor mistake could just be like take you to the worst spiral ever. But the chicken is raw, the meat is undercooked. Someone fucked up your gravy, which happened to me a few months ago. So many different things. And in catering, I'm used to, for example, Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day for the past 8 years. What I do is I cater for 5,000 people at American Airlines. That's been my job for the past 8 years. And my hours that one day is usually around 22 hours. So, and there's so many things that I have to remember to do for that huge operation, from food sanitation, which is my top priority, to people being happy, to the staff, keeping them, motivating them, whatnot. Mine is 3 different pinpoints at the airport, aside from whatever other events we have going on. So it's just so much to keep in mind. And where was I going with this?
You know what? I don't even know.
That I think that sometimes it's, definitely your feelings is just something you put in the back burner, because there's so much that we need to accomplish that we're like, fuck our feelings.
Well, you were talking about the gravy. That's what brought you to this. You were thinking someone messing up your gravy.
Yeah.
And the small thing can suddenly get, be the match that starts that fire. Yeah.
Definitely.
So, but you found a way to handle that better for yourself.
Yes, definitely.
What are you laughing about?
Just that I'm like, where am I going? You're like, I actually don't know where you're going with this.
Where are any of us going, Chris?
This is a normal day with my assistant, where I'm like, what am I thinking again? She's like, what the hell do I know what you're thinking? But usually she's like, I think you were thinking about this. I'm like, oh yeah, that. I'm like, so you do know what I'm thinking about.
That's why I pay you.
Yeah, definitely. She's very good at that. She just turned 10 years working with me. And
nice.
She's been such an essential part of my career. She helped me name my book.
What's her name? Give her a shout out.
Michelle.
There you go.
She knows. A lot of people know her, but she just turned 10 years. Basically my longest relationship. That's interesting.
It's good thing you found those boundaries.
Yeah.
So, how does one begin to approach this, the culture of, mental health in kitchens and pushing through and not acknowledging these things? How do you begin to start changing that a bit? Because it's a tough crowd.
Yeah, it is a tough crowd. Definitely, I think one step is to talk about it more. I think in my kitchen, I try to do these little group circles where we allow each other to talk about things. I also, as a leader that I am, I let my staff know I'm approachable. Hey, you could talk to me about something. And usually if I spot someone that they're having a bad day or something, I go up to them and I'm like, hey, you okay? Is there something you want to talk about? You know, you can trust me, blah, blah, blah. It's very important that you actually stay true to that promise of trust, because if you're telling everyone that, that's going to do the counter effect. So talking about it, creating a space where people could open up. Individually, you have to be doing the work, whether it's therapy, God, walking, healthy things, not going to the clubs and drinking your life away and having, orgies or whatever it is that people do nowadays. So, because I'm telling you, I have a few friends that those examples I use, those are things
Sure.
that they're doing, and they're not, they're happy at the moment, but they're not. The work is not being done. And I think more importantly, to check in on yourself every day. Make a little list of things you want to work on. Make a little list of things you'd like to improve, and understand that this is not just something that's going to happen from instantly. This is something that's going to take time, but it also is important that you put in the work. Also, in the case of the kitchen, make sure you get the day off, and in that day off, go for a walk, go for a swim, take a long drive somewhere, go to your favorite restaurant, do things that allow yourself to be pampered, allow others to pamper you, just allow for a mental reset. Sometimes, and I'm guilty of this, I have the day off, and what am I doing? I'm catching up with work. I'm sending emails, I'm calling employees, I'm doing all these things. Now I've learned to just, hey, relax, stay in bed, do nothing, just, because you think that you're getting more done by doing all of that work, but sometimes if you actually rest, when you go to work, you'd be able to get more shit done because you actually rested. Your head is clear. It's not as cluttered. But definitely love yourself. Love yourself. Choose you. Choose you over and over and over again. Because one thing I've learned in the past couple of months is when you choose you, everything's going to start coming to you, versus you running behind everything. And that's a little, I don't know if you want to look at it from a God sense or energetically or whatnot. But for so long, I put so many people in front of me. And I think that once I started choosing me, that's when I started just seeing things differently.
Have you found that learning to love yourself allows you to love others better?
I love people in general. I just love people.
That's never been a challenge for you.
It hasn't been a challenge for me. I think definitely to just love myself as much as I love people. And I think very highly of myself, but it's weird because then I could also be my toughest critic. So, and sometimes obviously the little things, and I don't care about what strangers say, but the people close to me, sometimes what they say to me, those words could stay in on repeat, like my mom's Christopher, like so I think it's been very important for me, at least, to silence those words and to remind myself of how special I am, of the journey I've been through, to be patient with myself, and to, like I mentioned, just choose yourself.
Yeah. So aside from the individual level, are there any changes that you would like to see, kind of like the fundamentals of the field, either in cooking or even in television cooking, that whole realm? Is there anything that you feel like really needs to change?
Yeah, and I think in every industry it needs to change, but those two that you mentioned, because the TV industry is as fucked up as the kitchen.
Yeah.
But I think in this country, I can't speak worldwide, but I think in this country we really need to start looking into more about mental health. It's a big issue, and it's just, sometimes when I tell my friends go to therapy, they're like, my insurance doesn't cover it. You see, I don't want to hear that. I think insurance should be covering, every insurance should be covering mental health therapy, even especially for our vets. Look how many vets are, they're homeless, or they have PTSD and they're not able to get the resources that they need. So I feel that we need to address the mental health crisis in this country. We also need to just start speaking to one another more often and checking up on each other, and seeing in what ways we could help each other out. I remember the 90s. I look at them as such a special time because we could tell each other what our differences. We could talk about anything. Nowadays, if you share your favorite color, the other person usually gets mad. So you
Mm.
can't even share your point of view on something. So, maybe we should set our differences aside and just have normal conversations like back in the day. And I also think we need to stop being so judgmental. Nowadays, if you say, I like this, you're put into this box. I don't like this, you're put into this box. We need to start taking off the labels of things and just accept people for who they are. And I think that that would create a much better world.
Mm. Well said.
Yep.
So what's next for you? Where are you going right now? What's going on for you at this moment?
So I just stopped my break as of September, and I've
Okay.
done some pretty cool things since then. But I have an entire new management company. I have a new agency. I have a new PR team. I have a new everything. So many new things on the horizon. I have tons of ideas that are ready to work on.
Is there a whiteboard or something over off to that side?
It's actually right there to the
Yeah.
right, which I won't show it to you, but it's right there.
Yeah.
And yeah, so many cool things in the works, but in this industry, a lot of things take time. And then right now, as we're approaching the holiday season, my focus is on our catering events. Especially those 5,000 ones, 5,000
Mhm.
guest people events that there are a lot of work and whatnot. So that's where my mind is at right now. And then usually once I'm done with that, I jump back into the career, and yeah.
Are you
It's pretty
working on
cool
a second
stuff.
book right now, or is it finished? Like what's the status with that?
So I have two books. I have two books that are in the air.
Okay.
But they're very different types of books. One of them is a children's book. The other one is cookbook, and they're just there being worked on. So
Gotcha. So stay
yeah,
tuned about that stuff.
yeah. Stay tuned about that and some other cool stuff.
Okay.
Definitely.
I
Yeah.
have a couple.
I'm not.
Oh,
I'm not in a hurry. I
yeah.
think before I used to be in a hurry. Like if there was a ticking, bomb. Nowadays, I'm just like, what's the hurry? Enjoy the process. Enjoy the process.
That's great. I have a couple, different questions for you I want to throw out there. So, one thing I've noticed is that you really, you tell your story through food. What is a dish that, if somebody wanted to understand you better as a human, what's a dish that they should try?
Oh Jesus! As a human,
Just to understand
um,
you.
I think I don't know if it's understanding me, but I think all roads lead back to childhood. So whenever someone would come over, my mom would always make this shrimp enchilado, which is basically like the Cuban version of a Creole shrimp. And she would serve it with the rice, with the fried crispy plantains, and with her house-made salad. It just, to me, it screams family. It screams I love you. It screams care. It screams just this feeling of I feel special. So definitely, I like serving up a taste of nostalgia, and bringing people to the beginning of my journey, and how it made me feel.
Mm. What is the rice like in that dish? How is it seasoned?
Just plain
Is it
white
plain white?
rice.
Okay.
Yeah, and you want it to be plain because once you add the sauce of the shrimp, which is made with tomato sauce and white wine and a whole bunch of Cuban spices and whatnot, tons of garlic, it's the rice soaks up all of that flavor, and it's just heaven. And then usually, if you're me, you've had a few margaritas, you add the rice on the fried plantain and the shrimp, and then you make it into this whole little tostone
Hmm.
sandwich situation.
Nice. Oh, between the tostones, like you put it in between the two of them, or like,
I do. I like the tostones idea, but no, it's just one. I'm a
okay.
little one
Oh,
biter.
okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. I made
uh,
like a taco situation. You're thinking of a whole sandwich,
yes. Yeah. My mind's going somewhere else with it.
which is a
Okay.
great idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Shout me out when you do it. um, what are some spices that, white folks should get their hands on that they may not be using in the kitchen?
So I remember when I was on Food Network Star, I was making an arroz con pollo, and Chef Alex Cornicelli, she's like, "Do you have to use all these spices?" And I turned around and I said, "Yes, you have to use all of these spices." Because she's like, "Less is more." I'm like, "No, not in Cuban food. You need this concoction of all of these spices together for it to work. You need your cumin, you need your onion powder, you need your garlic powder, you need your coloring, you need your salt, your black pepper, and then you also need your fresh onion. You need your fresh garlic. You need your cilantro. So the beer, for in this case, I
Hmm.
was making the arroz con pollo. The peppers, the onions. You need the whole shebang. Um, so I think that's one example that stands out. That definitely you need it all to create this master Latin dish. But definitely cumin, oregano, cilantro, and garlic.
I'm getting hungry. That's awesome. That's awesome.
I'm hungry too, actually.
Yeah. Well, we know what we're doing after this.
Eating for
Um,
sure.
I guess in closing, I will also have you, kind of go back and dig a little bit. You said that you cook for the young version of yourself. That version of you that's so excited when you get to go on stage. Seems like you really feel that version of you still in there. What would that young version want to say to 2025 you now?
Mm. Um, Take care of yourself. Uh, Appreciate all the hard work you do. Don't give up. Follow your instincts. Follow that feeling you had when you were young, because it's a special feeling and it comes up every now and then, and it's a indication that something is happening right. Don't be afraid to love. Don't be afraid to lead. Don't be afraid to express your artistry. And artistry, I mean whether on TV or on a dish, in the way that you feel that it should be done, not in the way that society wants you to do it. And just love yourself. Love yourself as much as possible, because the applause might be loud today, might be silent tomorrow, but as long as you have yourself as your number one supporter, possibilities are endless.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there anything before I let you go that you want to shout out? Anything you want to direct people toward, where they should follow you, etc.?
Oh yeah, you could follow me on Chef Chris Valdes on Instagram and on TikTok, and I think we're gonna start posting some new type of content on both platforms. But yeah, I'm always definitely posting food and making people hungry, or so I've heard.
Awesome. Thanks for spending some time with me, Chris.
Yeah, no, thank you.